During a girls' night, my fiancé said that I was a stepping stone, not the destination. Little did she know, I was. It was supposed to be just another quiet night for me. I was sitting in my apartment, the way I usually do when Amber was out. A chance to play some games, unwind, and get away from everything. She had mentioned a girls' night with some of her work friends. Nothing too special, face masks, snacks, talking about career goals, or whatever. It was all very Amber to be so into social media, so I didn't think twice about it. The text she sent me before she left. Miss you already, babe. Felt like just another sweet thing she always did. But little did I know. That night would change everything. Amber was obsessed with social media. Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat if it was a platform. She was on it, posting about everything, from what she had for lunch to vague motivational quotes when she was in a mood. At first, I thought it was cute, even kind of quirky. But eventually, I just accepted it as part of dating someone born after 1990. She had about 12,000 followers, not influencer level, but enough to get some free stuff here and there, like clothes or beauty products. We lived in this carefully curated online reality. I was hardly ever featured on her social media, except when she convinced me to pose for the perfect candid shot to the world. We were the perfect couple, great vacations, lovely dates, and no arguments about her overspending on designer bags when we had an actual house repair that needed to be dealt with. Anyway, Amber had been so into social media, and yet that night, she didn't post a single thing. I found it strange. She's the kind of person who takes photos of the most random things. If there's an aesthetic to it, she's capturing it. But that night, nothing. No selfies, no boomerangs, not even a casual story of them hanging out doing face masks. It didn't sit right with me. So, I did something I wouldn't have normally done. I logged into a burner account I had set up a while ago when I was helping my company test out a new analytics tool. The account was completely anonymous. No profile picture, no posts, just a random name. I searched for Amber, just out of curiosity. And sure enough, I found her on Instagram Live. The title of the stream, Girl Boss Night. About 45 people were watching, and there they were, Amber and her friends, sitting on her friend Megan's sectional sofa, chatting away, giggling like they were the life of the party. There was sparkling water on the table, snacks scattered around. It looked like any other girls' night, but I knew this was something I should be watching, not just a casual social event. As I sat there, I heard Amber's voice crack through the audio. Thanks, Jenny loves 94. Yes, this is my natural hair color. Then, someone typed in the chat, how's wedding planning going with the it guy? Amber rolled her eyes, leaning into the camera, clearly ready for the attention. Mike is what's the word, he's so basic, she said, laughing. He's financially stable, which is the only reason I'm still with him. Good credit score, no debt, actual savings account, but God. The man wears the same 3 button-downs and thinks Olive Garden is a date night. The room burst into laughter, and my stomach churned. It was like a gut punch, but I couldn't stop watching. I wanted to believe she didn't mean it. I wanted to pretend it wasn't that bad. But the words kept coming, each one more cutting than the last. Then Amber held up her hand to show off the diamond engagement ring. Yeah, he bought me this fat rock, she said, twirling it. Only because I showed him exactly which one to buy and told him if it wasn't at least this big, I'd say no. Took him forever to save up for it too. Like, just put it on credit like a normal person. At that point, I was in complete shock, but I couldn't look away. It felt like everything I had thought was real was unraveling before me. And then she dropped the bomb. He's a stepping stone, not the destination. Once we're married and I get my business off the ground, who knows? People grow apart. She winked at the camera. Savage, someone typed in the chat, and they all laughed again. I felt the bile rise in my throat. It was so surreal. This wasn't some offhand remark she had said it publicly. The woman I thought I would marry, the woman I loved, had just told her friends that I was just a stepping stone, a means to an end. My heart was pounding. I didn't feel anger yet. I didn't feel rage. I felt nothing but an overwhelming wave of sadness and disappointment. This was the woman I had spent years building a future with, and now she was just a stranger. someone I didn't even recognize. The rest of the night was a blur. I watched her for a bit longer, recorded the stream, and saved it, just in case I needed it later. Then I closed the laptop. I didn't rage. I didn't confront her immediately. I just sat there. I let the reality of what I had just witnessed sink in. She wasn't the woman I thought she was. And deep down, I knew something had to change. This relationship was nothing like what I thought it was. The following morning, Amber came home in her usual way, all dressed in workout clothes that cost more than my monthly car payment, carrying an overnight bag from her girls' night. She kissed me on the cheek quickly and headed straight for the kitchen to make one of her detox smoothies, using ingredients that probably cost as much as my weekly groceries. "How was your night?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral, even though my mind was a swirl of anger, confusion, and disbelief. "So fun. Just what I needed," she said, not looking up from her phone, tapping away as she scrolled through Instagram. "Megan's thinking about leaving her boyfriend. He's such a loser." She barely paused, just murmuring it like it was some casual conversation about the weather. I nodded, still trying to keep my cool. "What did you guys do?" I asked, as if the night before hadn't completely shattered everything I thought I knew. "Nothing much," she replied. "Just had snacks, talked about career goals and stuff." She didn't seem the least bit aware that her world and mine were falling apart. Or maybe she didn't care. "I'm already planning the next girls' night," she added, as if everything was fine. I kept my composure and didn't call her out immediately. The thoughts kept swirling in my head. Last night, she'd basically told the world I was nothing more than a financial resource for her, a stepping stone. That phrase kept replaying over and over, and with it, the cruel tone in her voice when she said it. The woman I thought I would marry, the person I trusted, had reduced me to a tool, and there I was, sitting in the kitchen like an idiot, pretending everything was normal. I made the mistake of recalling all the subtle red flags I had ignored over the past 3 years. The small things that, at the time, I chalked up to her being high maintenance or a little stressed. The way she'd criticize my clothes, my car, or the fact that I wasn't ambitious enough for her. I remember once she said, "When are you going to ask for a raise? Jake at my office makes way more than you. Don't you want to apply for that management position? The salary bump would help with the wedding." It never ended. Every conversation, every plan we made, always came back to money, how much I made, how much I saved, how much I spent. I even remember how she'd criticized my birthday plans once. For my 30 honest birthday, I wanted to just have a casual BBQ with a few friends, maybe some video games and beer, but she vetoed it. "It's not Instagram worthy," she said. "Let's have dinner at this trendy place instead, and we can invite some of my friends." I went along with it, of course. The dinner cost way more than I'd wanted to spend, but I didn't want to seem cheap. And that night, I felt like a prop at my own birthday party while she spent the entire evening chatting with her friends, barely acknowledging me. The more I thought about it, the more everything added up. I wasn't just a partner to her. I wasn't someone she loved. I was a financial plan, a means to an end. She didn't care about my dreams, my passions, my life. She didn't even care to ask me about my day, unless it involved how it could impact her. My life with her had been a series of compromises, but none of them were for the sake of love. It was always for her image, her comfort, her brand. I'd been so blinded by the idea of this beautiful, successful woman wanting to be with me that I had completely ignored how toxic everything had become. The next week, I went about my days, playing it cool. I went to work, came home, did the usual routine. But inside, I was making mental notes of everything, every red flag, every conversation that should have been a warning. I had to keep my composure. I had to focus. I was building my escape, methodically and quietly, because the truth was, I deserved better. I wasn't going to be anyone's stepping stone. I started by looking at our finances. The truth hurt. My salary was $78.0 a year. Hers was $65.0 so. But her savings, a joke. She had around $4.30 so, while I had $65.0 tucked away in various accounts, just like my dad had always drilled into me. 6 months' worth of expenses saved for a rainy day. She had no retirement savings because, as she once put it, that's for old people, and I had $112.0 in my retirement accounts, built up over years of careful saving. Our shared savings for the wedding and honeymoon, $32.40 so. And I had contributed the majority of it, $28.0 of it was my money. The rent, I paid $1.70 of the $2. $200 monthly rent, and she paid just $500. Utilities, I covered all of it. I paid for most of the groceries too, except for the specialty items she liked, which she would pick up on her own. And that was just the beginning. I also realized that while I had no credit card debt because I paid everything off monthly, she had a mountain of debt, $22.0 across 4 cards. She was maxed out on everything. Meanwhile, I had been paying my bills, saving, and trying to make sure everything was in order. She was living beyond her means, and I was footing the bill. It was clear I was the one carrying the weight of our entire financial situation. And when I really looked at it, I saw that everything she had was only because I'd been paying for it. So, I started making calls. I knew this was going to be my way out. I reached out to the venue where we had booked our wedding, $155.0 deposit, mostly from my savings. I explained the situation to the manager, Karen, who was shocked at what I told her. "So, you're calling to cancel?" she asked. "Not exactly," I replied. "I'm calling to see if I can transfer the reservation to a different name and get my deposit back." After a bit of silence, Karen came through. She agreed to refund my deposit, but more importantly, she made a note in their system that Amber wouldn't be able to rebook the date. If she tried, the refund would be processed, and she couldn't use it. Next, I called our honeymoon resort in Bali, where we had a $8.20 package. Luckily, it was refundable up to 60 days before, so that was easy. Then, I contacted the bank, explaining that I needed to separate our finances discreetly. I moved my portion of our joint savings account, $28.0 so, into a new account. My buddy was looking for a place, so I arranged for him to take over my lease. I booked a new apartment for myself, smaller, less expensive, and more comfortable for one. I arranged everything. When Amber was at her all-day marketing conference, I was busy setting my plan in motion. The final touch was my burner Instagram account. I made sure I had recorded everything from that live stream, Amber's cruel words, her friend's laughter, everything. I had it all, not for revenge, but for closure. I wanted to make sure I didn't let myself gaslight my way back into thinking it wasn't that bad. Then, I started the real work cutting ties. I logged out of everything we shared: Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, our shared photo storage. I removed my credit card from her accounts, and I made a list of everything I owned before we moved in together versus what we had bought jointly. Anything we bought together, I was leaving it behind. Anything that was mine before, I was taking it. Fair was fair. This wasn't about revenge. It was about self-preservation. It was about respecting myself enough to walk away, even if it meant a few difficult steps. I was done with the lies, the manipulation, and the empty promises. This was my way out, and it was time for me to take it. Thursday came, the day my plan would finally unfold. Amber left early for her marketing conference, dressed in her usual power outfit, a blazer more expensive than my first car, her workout gear beneath it, which was a whole other level of indulgence. She kissed me goodbye, distracted as always, and asked me to make dinner reservations for later that evening. "I'm networking with VPs," she said, almost as an afterthought. I simply nodded, keeping my calm on the outside, but on the inside, my mind was racing. This was the day I would start over. I didn't hesitate. Once she was gone, I texted the movers. All clear. They arrived around 8 a.m., and by 10 a.m. everything was packed up, boxed and ready to go. My clothes, electronics, personal items, and family heirlooms, nothing of hers was touched. Everything that was mine before we'd even moved in together was leaving with me. I didn't need to take anything we had bought together, so I left it behind. The overpriced sofa, the matching dining set, the bed we had shared, those would stay. It felt almost poetic. really, because it was all part of the life I was walking away from. I paused for a moment at the engagement ring, the one I'd worked so hard to afford after months of sacrificing, of eating ramen just to make sure I could buy the one she wanted. I'd saved up every penny for that ring. The diamond sparkled on my finger, and for a moment, it felt like a cruel reminder of how little she truly cared about me. I placed the ring in a water glass on the kitchen counter. It was fitting. She'd been drinking sparkling water when she had belittled me during that live stream, so it only made sense that it should sit there. I didn't leave a note. There was no need. She had broadcasted her true feelings to the world. She had told everyone exactly what she thought of me. I was just the stepping stone. By noon, I was at my new place. It was a small, furnished apartment across town with a month-to-month lease. The rent was less than what I had been paying for our bigger place, and the whole apartment felt more like home than anything I had shared with Amber. I set up my internet, unpacked a few essentials, and by 5 p.m., I was sitting on my new couch. The one I had picked out because it was comfortable, not because it was Instagram-worthy. There was no ornate, overpriced furniture, no pressure to maintain an image. It felt peaceful. For the first time in a while, I felt like I could breathe again. My phone exploded around 5:23 p.m. The first text was from Amber. "Mike, where are you? Where's your stuff? Call me back. This isn't funny." I didn't reply. Another text. A few minutes later, "Are you kidding me? You moved out over what? Call me." I still didn't reply. The texts kept coming, each one more frantic than the last. At 5:45 p.m., she sent a voice message. "Seriously, is this about that stupid Instagram live? You're being ridiculous. It was just girl talk. You know I love you." She was trying to sound casual, but I could hear the panic in her voice. Her texts came so fast. I couldn't keep up. At 6:01 p.m., "I can't believe you do this to me." 6:08 p.m., over one stupid comment. "Really?" By 6:15 p.m., she was calling me childish. "You're acting like a child." 6:23 p.m., she wrote. The ring, too. Seriously. It was almost laughable how quickly she was shifting from anger to guilt to pleading, trying to manipulate me back into her control. By 6:45 p.m., she texted, "Please, just call me so we can talk about this." But I didn't. I couldn't. I had seen enough. This wasn't some mistake on her part. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't regretful. She was just angry that her free ride was over. At 7:15 p.m., her texts took a darker turn. "If you don't call me back, I'm calling the police to do a wellness check." It made my stomach turn. How could she even go that far? She was no longer just playing the victim. She was trying to pull every emotional string she could. At 7:32 p.m., she sent a final text. "I'm coming to find you." I just turned my phone off. I wasn't going to engage. The next morning, I turned my phone back on and was immediately met with a flood of notifications. 78 missed calls, 134 text messages, 23 voicemails, and then the notifications that she had tried to log into my email and bank accounts. My stomach twisted. How had she managed to get that far? I didn't respond to any of it. But at noon, a message came through from my buddy Dave. "Dude, Amber is having a meltdown on social media. Did you guys break up?" I checked her Instagram. There it was, a tearful selfie of Amber, makeup intentionally smudged, a faux pout on her lips. "When the person you thought would stand by you forever abandons you without even a conversation," the caption read. She painted herself as the innocent party, the victim of my cruelty. "Men really will waste years of your life and walk away without explanation," she wrote, playing to the sympathy of her followers. The comments were mixed. Her regular followers were all, "You deserve better, girl," and "Men are trash." But then there were others, ones who had seen the truth. "Isn't this the guy you called a stepping stone on your live?" one person wrote. Another added, "Didn't you say you were only with him for financial stability?" The replies kept coming in, and I saw her desperately trying to delete them, but it was too late. I saved everything from that live, every second, every word. I recorded it, transcribed it, and took screenshots. I wasn't going to let myself be gaslit into thinking I was overreacting. She had revealed exactly who she was, and I wasn't about to let that go. By evening, Amber showed up at my new place. I don't even know how she found the address, probably through a mutual friend, but there she was, standing outside, calling my name. I watched from my window 4 floors up. She was sobbing, screaming, pleading for me to come down and talk to her. "Mike, please, I didn't mean it. It was just stupid girl talk. You can't throw away 3 years over one mistake." She kept repeating it like a mantra. Security came by eventually and told her to leave. She wasn't allowed to loiter, so they threatened to call the police. She left. But the texts kept coming, each one more frantic, more desperate. Not once did she ask if I was okay. It was all about her, what she was going to tell people. The wedding, the venue, the dress. Not once did she say, "I miss you." It was surreal, watching her break down from my window, but it didn't move me. I felt nothing, not anger, not sadness, not satisfaction, just peace. Finally, after everything, I felt like I was free. Her next move was to try and find another way in. I knew it was coming. She started showing up at places I frequented, the coffee shop I loved, the gym I went to, the comic book store I liked to visit. Every time I arrived, she just happened to be there. So, I changed my routines. I made sure to keep my distance. Then, she started using mutual friends to arrange accidental meetups. Some of them tried to get me to talk to her, to let her explain herself, but I shut it down quickly. I wasn't interested in talking. I had made my decision. I respected her honesty, and I was respecting myself by walking away. I wasn't going to drag this out. 2 weeks went by, and I made the final move. I blocked her on everything: Instagram, Facebook, every social media account we shared. And then I focused on rebuilding my life. I'd gotten a promotion at work, and the lack of the constant barrage of negativity from Amber gave me the mental space I needed to thrive. I started hitting the gym again. I reconnected with friends she had deemed not good enough for her social circle. And, most importantly, I started saving for a house, a real house, one I could buy on my own terms. Not because it looked good on someone's Instagram. The whole time, Amber's life was unraveling. But none of it was my problem anymore. A few weeks passed, and things began to settle into a rhythm. I'd gotten used to my new place, and the quiet that came with it. I was still getting used to the freedom, to the fact that my life no longer revolved around Amber's constant need for validation or her obsession with keeping up appearances. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving. I was focusing on my career, hitting new milestones, and actually starting to believe in the future I was building for myself. It felt good. It felt right. Amber, on the other hand, wasn't doing as well as she had hoped. I heard through mutual friends about her situation, how everything was falling apart in the aftermath of our breakup. She was still living with her parents, having failed to keep up with rent on the apartment we had shared. She had gotten a car, repossessed her BMW, the one she could never truly afford, but had flaunted as if it was just another piece of her perfect life, without me footing the bills. The image she had built started to crumble, but the best part, her friends were starting to distance themselves too. Megan and Kylie, who had once been all too happy to hang around for the free dinners and trips Amber used to fund, were now pulling away. No more group hangouts, no more social media shout-outs. They found other people to spend time with, people who didn't have to keep up the charade. I suppose they realized that Amber's image of a perfect life had been built on the backs of others, and without the financial support, there was nothing left to hold it up. Amber's career also took a hit. The marketing conference she had attended the day I moved out was meant to be a big opportunity for her. She had hoped to make connections and land a better-paying job, something she could brag about on her social media to her followers. Well, she did land a new job at a bigger agency, but it didn't last. Turns out, the hiring manager had seen her social media meltdown and was less than impressed by the way she had handled herself. Public image matters in her field, and Amber's had taken a nosedive. The hiring manager called it off, and just like that, the doors she thought would open to her started closing. I knew all of this not because I was stalking her or keeping tabs on her life. I knew because she couldn't stop herself from documenting it. Amber kept posting on Instagram, sharing cryptic quotes about betrayal and personal growth. all the while trying to rebrand herself as some kind of personal growth guru. It was almost pathetic to watch. She went from posting photos in luxury stores to now sharing sad selfies and motivational quotes about rising above toxic relationships. But the truth was, her brand had completely collapsed. Then, a couple of months ago, I received an unexpected email from Amber. She had created a new email account since I had blocked her main one, and this email was different from the others she had sent. It wasn't a guilt trip or an angry rant. It was a desperate plea for help. "Mike," she wrote, "I'm desperate. I can't make rent. My car's gone, and I might lose my job. I know I don't deserve it, but I need help to get back on my feet. Just a loan. I swear I'll pay you back. Please. I have nowhere else to turn." I sat on that email for 3 days. I thought about it. Thought about how hard I had worked to get where I was and how, for years, I had helped her maintain her illusion of success. But I wasn't her safety net anymore. I wasn't the one she could depend on to pay for her mistakes. I had already paid enough for both of us. "Finally," I responded. "That sounds really challenging. Have you considered that maybe this is just a stepping stone to something better? People grow apart from their financial problems all the time. Good luck with your journey." It felt strangely satisfying to send that message. Petty, maybe, but in a way, it was a small act of reclaiming the dignity I had lost in that relationship. I had learned the hard way that I was just a stepping stone for her. So, I threw her words back at her. A few hours later, my phone blew up with texts from her friends, calling me heartless, cruel, a monster for abandoning someone in need. I didn't care. I sent them all a link to the saved Instagram Live, the one where Amber had revealed her true feelings about me. It was almost funny how quickly the texts stopped after that. No one could argue with what was clearly out there for everyone to see. Then, a few days later, I got an unexpected message from Kylie. It was the first time one of Amber's friends had reached out to apologize, and I wasn't sure how to feel about it. She said, "Hey Mike, I know you probably hate me, and I totally get it. But I wanted to say, I'm sorry for laughing along with Amber that night. It wasn't cool. She's been saying that stuff for a while, and I just went along with it. You seem like a good guy, and you deserved better. I appreciated the apology, but I didn't pursue the conversation. I didn't need it. I was moving on. I wasn't looking to rehash the past. I had learned my lesson, and I had no intention of getting sucked back into that world of manipulation." The final update came last week when I heard through mutual friends that Amber had to move back in with her parents in the suburbs. She had lost most of her followers, and her personal brand had crumbled. All because of a compilation video that someone had created, one that paired all her materialistic posts with the infamous clip of her calling me a stepping stone. She had been posting about how she had found herself and was taking time to reflect on her toxic relationship patterns. Of course, she never took responsibility for her actions, never once admitted what she had done wrong, but it didn't matter. Everyone could see through her. As for me, well, life has been good. I'm dating again, but not rushing into anything serious. I'm meeting new people, enjoying getting to know them for who they really are, not for what I can provide. My new apartment feels like home. I'm even saving for a house now, one that I'll buy because I want it, not because it'll look good on someone else's Instagram. Sometimes, I think back to how close I came to legally binding myself to someone who only saw me as a walking ATM, a means to her image. I dodged a bullet there. That $35.0 wedding fund, that would have been nothing compared to the cost of the emotional toll, the constant manipulation, and the years I would have spent under her control. Instead, I invested that money in myself, and it's the best return I'll ever get. It's been just over 6 months now since I walked away from Amber and that life. I wanted to share this update because the original post got so much attention and support. It helped me during those first few weeks when I was second-guessing myself, wondering if I'd done the right thing. To the people who called me an asshole for how I handled it, maybe you're right, but I don't regret it, not for a second. In the end, I learned something important. Pay attention to who someone is. When they don't think you're watching, that's who they really are. And if someone calls you a stepping stone, believe them the first time. Don't ignore the signs, don't make excuses, and never let someone use you as a stepping stone to their version of success. Trust me, you deserve better.